key areas to monitor blood pressure are to the brain. Your brain is kind of big. It likes glucose and not much else. And it likes a lot of glucose constantly all the time. It doesn't even store it. So you have to keep blood flow to your brain fairly fast. So you have to have enough blood pressure to keep blood flowing. So you have baroreceptors located in your arteries feeding your brain. There are other places too. That's key. So a lot of them are in your carotid arteries. And what they want to do is they want to monitor the blood pressure. So you've got these nerve endings now. So basically this is now your neuronal system, those controlling your brain. So you're going to have neurons sitting on these arteries monitoring the blood pressure. So it has to be constant. And for example, you've used these. How many have ever stood up really fast and felt dizzy? Most of you, right? If you're a bodybuilder, it'll probably happen quite a bit. What's happening is when you use your leg muscles, all of a sudden the arterioles dilate, right? So all the blood goes to your leg, not to your brain. So, and then of course if you're a bodybuilder, you have a lot of leg muscle. When all of a sudden you stand up fast, all of a sudden you get dizzy. So, this kicks out. Does it happen quickly? Do you fix the problem? Most of you do, right? You feel a little dizzy, and then a couple seconds later, you're okay, right? Your baroreceptors fixed it. You stand up fast, all of a sudden the blood drops down to it. The baroreceptors here notice that the blood pressure dropped. And very quickly, they send a signal to the brain. The brain sends a signal out to the rest of the body to fix blood pressure. Here's the signal. Basically stretch receptors. So you can imagine they're nerve endings. Remember we talked about mechanoreceptors? And they have cells that, if you stretch them, channels open and the cell depolarizes. If you depolarize, you're going to start to generate action. What you have is normal, everything's okay. You have a certain frequency of action. Remember that you use the number of frequency of action potentials as a total. So you're good, this is the frequency. Let's say all of a sudden the blood pressure goes up. Not our example, but now it's going high. If the blood pressure is high, your arteries are going to expand, right? So the stretch receptors pick it up. More channels open. You get a larger, greater potential. As a result, you generate higher frequency of action. That signal then goes to your brain. Your brain knows right away. It's not something conscious. This is all autonomic. Based on the number of action potentials, your blood pressure is high going to the brain. Conversely, if you stood up too fast, this is what would happen. Blood pressure would drop, right? Now you have the opposite of stretch. Everything relaxes. The action potential frequency drops. Your brain notices that based on the frequency of action. Don't worry so much about that one. And the signals go to, you can look at it when it's high. Even though the total is normal, your brain picks it up. Whenever it goes really high, your systolic goes higher than normal, notice there's a very high frequency. But when it drops below, you still have a lower frequency. It picks it up very quickly. So it can sense fine-tuned changes. It sends the signal to what's called the medulla oblongata. This is your brain scan. Does this seem like a pretty, call it a primal mechanism? This is something you don't think about. This is something controlling blood pressure. By the way, also controlling respiration rate. These are things that every animal needs. You can't mess around with these things, so they're considered primal. The stuff in your brainstem is considered more primal. These are your fundamental things. You don't live without these. Once you get further and further out, it gets a little bumpy. You get out to the cortex, it's all thoughts. So let's get into that. So this is the signal. This is your afferent signal. This is the initial input telling your brain what's going on. Right? Your brain's the integrating center, right? So it's going to have to respond to your question. So the first thing is your initial signal. Right? So this, homeostasis is okay. You get that frequency of action potentials to the medulla oblongata and your brain's okay. Whatever it's doing with the sympathetic parasympathetic is fine. Now you stand up too fast. Or you have a hemorrhage. Keep in mind, all of a sudden you have a big hemorrhage, you're going to lose a lot of blood. Your blood pressure is going to drop. So if one of those happens, all of a sudden you get a lower frequency of action potentials to the medulla oblongata. That's your integrating center. It needs to respond. Well, what would you do? How would you increase blood pressure? Tell the heart to beat faster. How about stronger? Pump more blood out and pump faster. What are we talking about that does that? What autonomic nervous system tells your heart to go faster and beat stronger? Sympathetic. What do you want to happen to your overall vasculature? You've got low blood pressure. Low blood pressure to the brain is key here. Do you want to increase resistance elsewhere? You do. Okay? If you start to constrict blood vessels in other parts of the body, that'll shove more blood back towards the brain. So you respond, you send a signal to the medulla oblongata, and if you have low blood pressure, your sympathetic system is going to respond quick. And it's going to send out sympathetic signals. SA node, first guess was to increase heart rate, increase contraction, increase vascular resistance. You do all of that, and you do it quickly, your blood pressure goes up, blood goes through. And we don't have to go into the detail of how all those work, we already did. So now what we're doing is just putting everything back together. And sympathetic is quick, right? You stand up quick. A couple seconds later, in a couple seconds, you do all of that. And you fix your blood pressure. And you can do it. You can monitor your heart rate. At the same time, you stand up fast, and you'll see it'll go up.
For an increase in blood pressure, would be the opposite?
Exactly the opposite. So she asked what happens with an increase in blood pressure. All of a sudden, basically, the pressure's too high, and your brain's not going to be happy either, because now you're slamming it with blood down. So, you're going to decrease sympathetic activity, right, and increase parasympathetic. And all the opposite things are happening. This is a summary of that. Nothing new here. A lot of you guys like flow charts. So, standing up is one thing, and it is important. But really, more important would be your response to, say, a hemorrhage. All of a sudden, you're losing a lot of blood pressure. Because you're losing a lot of blood, your brain still needs blood. By the way, the last place your body restricts blood flow is to the brain. So, after that, problems are solved. So, you got to fix them. Baroreceptors respond. Arterial pressure, right, drops because you just got a hemorrhage, so arterial pressure is dropping. Now you need to respond. There's a decrease in firing the baroreceptors. You just think they're not stretched anymore and less action potential. Right away, your medulla oblongata gets it. Sends out a lot of signals. Parasympathetic, you have to decrease that. That would be a problem. So parasympathetic to your heart rate decreases. The sympathetic goes up. Your heart rate goes up. As a result, that's going to work to increase cardiac health. Sympathetic to your muscle. Cardiac muscle also goes up. So now it contracts stronger. That all your stroke volume goes up. So really, your cardiac output really goes up quickly. That might even be enough. But you also go up to increase sympathetic activity on the veins. Basically, you cause the veins elsewhere to constrict. Then a motor tone goes up. You get more blood. You get more blood flowing back to the heart. And you also cause the arteriole to constrict in a lot of areas. The result, the total peripheral resistance goes up. So all of it combines, you get return to normal blood pressure, particularly to the brain. or the same. These are just kind of showing those reactions. So let's say you have a hemorrhage. Don't test this. Just trust it. Don't go get in an accident on the way home. Wonder if this is happening. The first thing that happens, right, if all of a sudden you're losing a lot of blood, your stroke volume goes down. So keep in mind, the first response here is to the hemorrhage. So when you start to lose blood, if you lose blood, there's less venous return. So as a result, there's less stroke. Your heart rate initially is no change. I mean, we're talking a very brief period of time. So if your stroke volume drops, but your heart rate stays the same, your cardiac output is going to drop. Your total peripheral resistance initially is no change. There hasn't been a response. But your mean arterial pressure, if you have less cardiac output, you have less blood, drops. So now you respond quickly. As a result, you have a sympathetic discharge. A lot of sympathetic activity. All the things we just talked about happen. As a result, your stroke volume goes up. Your heart, you also cause increase in vascular total peripheral resistance. Combined, so you, right? You can see here your mean arterial pressure. And keep in mind. This one I brought up. I don't expect you to know it now. Your capillaries are really important. What this is talking about is how much fluid, this is that blood volume, how much fluid is leaving your blood and going into the tissue. That's a very important thing, and that will be coming up in our next set of slides. So, take a break.